We are at a really exciting time of the year. This is the beginning of the year where we have a blank slate before us. The coming months are filled with unlimited potential, lots of possibilities. And this is the time that we spend dreaming and envisioning of what we want to create and what we want to experience in this year. So I thought it was a perfect time to talk a little bit about goal setting because that's part of that process. And the concepts that I'm sharing with you today actually come from the book Atomic Habits by James Clear. And if you haven't read that book, highly recommend it. But let's talk more specifically about those goals. So there are actually two types of goals, and I want to share those with you right from the beginning. And the first type is the outcome goal. So the outcome goal is a really big goal, that dream, that vision, what it is we want to create, what it is that we desire to have or change in our life. That's the big picture, if you will. The second type of goal is a process goal. And those process goals are the small incremental steps that we take to change habits, to transform, to actually achieve that larger goal. The outcome goals are generally what get a lot of credit. They get a lot of focus and they get a lot of attention. And so that's really why I want to talk to you just a little bit this morning and share some thoughts and ideas around process goals and how you can combine the two to work together and support each other. You know, one of the things with New Year's resolutions, and there's all the statistics that are out that say, that New Year's resolutions are not met and they're dropped. And after, 30 days, people have moved on to other things. That's all true. And part of that process is they're missing the process goals. So I want to spend a little time talking to you about that today. Your outcome goal, remember, is what it is you want to do, what it is you want to experience, what it is you want to create. The process goals are the smaller goals of how you're going to do that. These are the small steps. So for instance, your outcome goal might be, you want to read 20 books this year. You want to spend more time in nature. You want to run a 5K. You want to organize your home. You want to lose weight. I mean, the list can go on and on and on like with that. Those are the bigger goals. Those are the outcome goals. But it's the process goals that actually lead you to that success. So let me talk for just a moment and really define an outcome goal for you. An outcome goal is where you want to go. Success in an outcome goal is defined by the outcome. You either achieve it or you don't. There's either success or there's failure. It's black or it's white. An outcome goal also focuses on a future date. It doesn't exist in your life right now. So it is something that is in the future. It's something that you want to strive to create. Another thing with an outcome goal is that there can be a lot of external factors that directly influence or impact that, things that are beyond our control. Those are the three main characteristics of an outcome goal. So an example of an outcome goal, and I'll use this throughout the video, is you want to read 20 books in the coming year. That would be an outcome goal. It's the success of that is defined by the outcome. Either I read 20 books or I don't. It's a future date. It doesn't exist right now. And as you might imagine, there are some external factors that could influence my ability, not my ability, but influence whether I read those 20 books or not this year. So now let's flip to the other side of the coin and talk about process goals. Process goals are those steps that you take to achieve that. Those would be things that influence your habits, your thoughts, your behaviors, things that you do now in the moment. So a process goal, the three main characteristics of a process goal are success is defined by action and by progress. So these are those little things that we do on a moment by moment or day by day basis, where it's very easy to track the action that we take and the progress that is made. Those are the things that either build the momentum and get us excited because we see with those incremental steps that we take, the changes that are beginning to happen, Or on the flip side of that, sometimes those can be the things where we become overwhelmed or disappointed or disenchanted with what we're doing because we're not following through with those goals. And so therefore we have no momentum. We're not seeing anything take form because we're not actually doing it. So that's one characteristic. Success is defined by action and your progress. The second characteristic is that process goals focuses on the here and now. Remember, our outcome is in the future, but what can I do here and now to begin to take those steps towards that? So you have complete control over the now. And the third step is process goals rely on factors that are completely within your control. So an example of that might be with the goal of reading 20 books this year is every day I will read 20 minutes a day. That begins to identify the processes that we're going to take to do that. Now, once we say we're going to read 20 minutes a day, we want to make sure there are some other things that go along with that, like making sure your environment supports that. So deciding where I want to read, what type of books I want to read, those sorts of things. And so there's some other factors that play into that. But those are all things that we have control of in the here and now as we do that. Outcome goals get a lot of attention. They're the big, shiny, sparkly thing that we're working towards that really gets us excited. Process goals, though, are those day-by-day steps that we get to take that build that momentum, that add to that excitement, where we actually start to see things change and transform in our own life as a result of those particular steps. I want to share with you today a very simple three-step process that combines the outcome goal with a process goal, building that synergy between the two of them to work together, helping you achieve those specific goals. So the first step in this process is step one, what do you desire? What is it you want to create? What is that vision or that dream that you want to bring into reality in your life? This goal is very specific, it's measurable, and it's time bound. So if you're familiar with SMART goals, it takes into consideration some of the aspects of a SMART goal. So with our example of reading 20 books, that is very specific. I want to read 20 books by the end of the year. So it's specific, measurable, and time bound. Step two is what am I going to do to bring this into my own reality? So these are the smaller steps that we do to begin to achieve that outcome. So these are things that maybe I need to work on my thinking I don't have enough time. Maybe that's a belief that I need to change. I need to prioritize things a little different. What are those smaller steps that I need to take to actually make this actionable? These are the action steps that we take. These are the things that we have control over every single day. Now, one other thing about process goals is that these are also flexible. So when we move into a process goal or we move into process, sometimes we try things that we think are going to work ideally in our head, but as we actually implement them, we find that there might be some changes or tweaks that we want to make to that. So recognize that process goals, these can be a little bit flexible as you implement things, find different ways to do things, find better ways to do things. These process goals might continue to change and transform, which is perfect because that again contributes to that momentum. You don't want to stick to something that's not working. You want to be able to allow it to evolve and grow and support that larger outcome goal. So these are your process goals. These are the things that you set up. So if I'm reading 20 books a year, I talked a little bit about environment. I want to maybe pick my favorite chair to sit in. I'm going to get a beverage to drink, my favorite cup of tea, and sit down and really enjoy that book, making it pleasurable for me. These are all parts of the system in my environment that I'm going to shift and change to begin to make that happen. The third thing is to make it obvious. This is the step that most people miss. This is where we clearly define when, where, and how often you're going to do this. So again, I mentioned, I'm going to pick my favorite chair. Well, when am I going to do that? Is that going to be perhaps in the morning, part of my morning routine? Is it going to be my unwind at night? I'm going to mark, wow, I'm going to do that. That might be actually scheduling it on my calendar with a reminder, the beeps, at first until this becomes a habit to remind me to do this. How often, I set that again on my calendar. Maybe it's 20 minutes a day. Maybe it's an hour every 3 days, whatever works for you whatever process works for you to reach that outcome. Another quick little tip that helps a lot of people here is to tie a new habit to an old habit. So for instance, in the evening, if I happen to begin to unwind and relax with a cup of tea, I might now tie this new reading habit that I want to create to that cup of tea. So when I get my cup of tea, I automatically go and pick up my book and I begin to read it. So I tie a new habit to an old habit. Another idea around that would be maybe I put the book that I'm reading on my chair. So as I'm walking around the house, walking in and out of that room by that chair, I see that book and it's just a gentle reminder that, I get to sit down and read it for 20 minutes or whatever that happens to be. So those are some of the things that kind of help you in making it obvious and helping you stick to that goal. And again, the book Atomic Habits by James Clear, he goes into much more detail about the brilliance behind all of this. So as you're looking at the coming year, whether it's a personal goal, whether it's a business goal, recognize that there are two different types of goals to set and two types of goals that are going to get you there. Work with your outcome goal. Those are the exciting, that's the big thing, right? And then also work with the process goals. This is where it gets really exciting because on a day-to-day, on a moment-by-moment basis, this is where you see things begin to shift and change. I would love to hear what your goals are for 2024. So feel free to drop them in the comments below and enjoy the process.